Right, let's get cracking. Good morning, welcome to this morning's Outlook review of what's actually happening here. Before I start looking at currencies themselves, let's have a look at the risk elements coming out, risk events for today. There's not really too much, he says, but you never know. Lagarde is actually welcoming in the new president of the Bundesbank, the change of office of president of the Bundesbank. A bit of ceremony around that. It'd be interesting to see if anything more said. It is generally a quiet week following non-farm payrolls, and well, yesterday certainly started off on the quieter side of things. This afternoon we got Fed Chair Powell speaking, and the testimony's already been released 17 hours earlier than scheduled. Now he's due to testify on the renomination of the chair to the chair of the Federal Reserve Board, governors, etc. Normally I would say when these two are speaking, Lagarde and Powell's testifying, etc. On these events I wouldn't be too fussed, but in the current state of play I'll just be pretty wary. Just when they're speaking, we'll see what the other speakers say at similar time, so just be wary. 10:20, 3 p.m. Today. Right, just going to have a quick look at what the Treasury is up to in terms of the yields. Yields are still pretty high here, massively high yesterday as we sort of work through the day there. Really pushing up there, and we've seen some as a consequence of that, we saw the dollar strength coming through, particularly in the afternoon. So there is this sort of belief now, and it's talked about four Fed rate hikes this year. Well, it doesn't really matter, it's all speculation, isn't it, to what reality is. However, the more it gets spoken out there, the more dollar strength, I suppose, sits there. Some of it's already priced in anyway, at least two. Again, speculation, maybe just knocked off by the normal market, the bigger players. They'll be looking at what the real figures are like. Anyway, morning, Al. So let's have a look at the technicals. We're looking at the euro. Euro is continuing, and I was looking at it on a bigger picture. For our trading room members, we're going to be looking at this in terms of Elliott waves, etc. And you can just see when you bring it out to the weeklies how chop it is. But it's just really bear flag territory, and it's just a case of waiting. But it really is a case of waiting. Yes, of course, you can be playing the ranges, but the ranges aren't constant. They're difficult to catch into at times. Saying that, yesterday's it just sort of broke down to the lows there. It bounced back, having a bit of a bounce at the moment. Maybe it's got some a bit more upside in this, but when you come down to the short-term time frames, it still looks weak to me with these spiky old candles that are sitting there. Morning, Ben. So we'll see how things develop, but for the short side of things, I'd be looking below that monthly pivot, below that 1330 area maybe. See if it continues breaking below there. It's got then its daily pivot to attack at 1323. And maybe some more, but where it sits at the moment, it's a little bit on the fence. Probably got a bit of divergence. If we're looking at RSI, he says no, there's nothing. It really is, not a lot going on there at all. I thought it might have had a bit of a divergence over the shorter time frame, but not on the right settings here. Okay, let's have a look at the pound. Looking at this, now the pound's generally been moving up a little bit easier. On the dailies, yesterday though, it did come back, tested the weekly pivot. Was looking at this in the morning to see what happened there. It actually tested it through the afternoon there, so it's come back, tested that decent bounce off that sort of area. I'll say area as opposed to the pivot itself, although afterwards you'd think, well, yeah, it's spot on, it works brilliantly. Look at where their bodies are. Well, yeah, maybe, but it's not a precise science. pivots, but all the same, it's come back off that area and has pushed up quite well. Now it's back into this area where we saw supply previously, and we could just see supply coming through here, and I think we'll be just watching this in the euro this morning. Untouched daily pivot below as well, which could be a draw to the downside. We might even see a correction back to the daily pivot and a bounce. If it comes later, I would expect perhaps more of a follow through again, and we might just see this horrible chop we saw yesterday morning. We may just see that repeated. Dollar yen. This has been, the yen's been gaining against the US dollar, been dropping off here against the yen effectively. Quite a solid down day there. This just suggests to me, whenever I see this happening with the other currencies falling as well, this is risk off and money running back towards the yen effectively. So the market's not liking the risk that's sitting there at the moment. It fits with the bonds as well in terms of the yields pushing up. It really it's dollar and yen positive, this market effectively. Now just looking at the yen, trying to make a bit of sense of it visually, and it's not an easy one to read, although lower highs, lower lows seem to be the shape of things at the moment. But a break back above 115.40 sort of area, back above this high, well, might see us run back, a recovery. There's a trend line that runs across the highs there. Also, it could just be coming back to its R1. Morning guys, just joined. Okay, that's yen. Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar pushing, well, largely on the dailies had been pushing up. Bit of a retracement recently, but had been, and we'd see the commodities doing okay some of the time, and it's, well, is it going to continue? It sold off yesterday from the, again back into that pivot, sold away from the pivot, but retesting that sort of zone. And it really is a case like the euro and the pound. If it can start breaking through its yesterday's highs here, there was supply around this area, and it's been supplied through the Asian session. If it can break through this supply area and start creating more demand, well, we'll get a higher low confirmed through here, and maybe even further upside. Okay, so Aussie, finally the Canadian dollar, looking at the majors, and the Canadian dollar still looking like it's got potential to sell off some more. The US dollar, Canadian dollar, we've still got the potential for it to roll. Yesterday, well, it put a new low in there again. That area of demand in this particular case had, for the dollar, had been holding and held yesterday, but we'll just see if what comes of today. It's already hit the daily pivot, shaped up quite nicely through the Asian session there, and it's a test into this 4-hourly 500 is the key point here. Break and a close below that, well, we could see a bigger continuation. Right, here's the majors, looking at those. Let's have a look at gold. I'm getting questions asking whether it's going to go back down to 1600, etc. Gold's in a funny old shape at the moment, but it's still largely pushing towards the upside. I'm looking at the dailies here, and it's still got these higher lows. Generally, it did come off a bit last week and pulled back a bit more than we would normally like, but it is still effectively pushing in this sort of impulse wave. So may still have some further upside. It's back above its weekly pivot. It didn't react to that, didn't sell into that pivot. It's pushed through it, and as I said, may have some more legs back up eventually to that R1, weekly R1. Just looking at the market at the moment, it is from today's perspective maybe a tad stretched, but that can continue its route, but it isn't already into its R2, which don't like it seeing it there quite so early. Any sell-off, the daily pivot becomes a target then, but for now, holding on. Right, that's gold. Oil's been having a reasonable time of late. Yesterday was a bit of an exception. It continued Friday's move to the downside there, slight movement back. hardly selling off strongly from where it's sitting at the moment. Still looks like it's in this bigger wave that's been pushing up here on the dailies. The weekly pivot holding quite well for that yesterday. So again, I was looking at that in the morning, looking at that weekly pivot. Well, it has found some support at the moment, and looking like it, as I said, it's still got some more legs. So at the moment, still looking a bit, well, rather bullish on oil. Now, if you missed last week, or Friday, late Friday, I posted a video on waves, and you may sort of start making a bit of sense out of this third wave that it's pushing up at the moment. So if you watch that video, you'll be able to catch it up on our collection there. You'll see that the current move could still have some further upside. Right, that's oil. Let's switch markets now. Quickly running into let's have a look at, what time is it? Let's quick look at crypto first, and then I'll come back to the equity markets, only on the basis I can see a bit more on the FTSE then where it's opened. Bitcoin still sitting around this area, of a bit of demand around this area maybe, but it's hardly anything big, and I'm just looking at this and thinking it could still roll over, still back off some more yet. It needs to do something more for me to be thinking, well, this is a buy for now. Some people may be dipping their toe in the water a little bit, but beware. It's the way it's sitting. When it sits around lows and consolidates, there's a fair chance it could continue to roll south. Ethereum, he says, clicking on Ethereum here, similar sort of situation. Consolidation around the lows here, and it looks like we could have a continuation down there. Wave patterns wise, it's certainly in downward waves where we're sitting at the moment, and the Ripple, very similar price action to the Bitcoin itself. So even FTM, I looked at this last week. Well, it looks like it might be getting a bit of support this morning. It's been outperforming a lot of the other coins, picking up this morning at the moment, but I just think the bigger drag might, if we see likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., all rolling back, it may just draw this back with it. Right, that's that. Let's have a look at the equity markets then, and looking at the CSI 300. So once again, talk about this as being bearish. It's below that key trend line. Okay, it's got some horizontal support coming in here, but still looking pretty weak. The Nikkei again selling off through the Asian session there, and again looking for me weak. We're still in this larger picture, this larger wedge at the moment though. It really depends if it even carry on selling off like this. I'd be watching for a break of that lower trend line, and it might get a more significant move. FTSE, well, let's just check. We're not into, yeah, we are into today, and it started up quite well here at the moment, so pushing up quite solidly at this stage. Already recovered all of yesterday's sell-off there, and it's back into the green for the week. So positive start. The consolidation around the highs would suggest further upside eventually. It's whether it can break those highs, or whether it just consolidates around here, and it has effectively potentially put a lower high in. A break of the high of the low of the 6th of January would suggest a lower high, maybe a bit more of a retracement there. The DAX, well, the DAX really sold off yesterday again. It's sort of, yes, opening up and a bit more positive this morning. Bit of a gap up by looks of things from this daily chart, so a bit of a gap up. It may yet get filled. It closed down at 15,797 roughly on this continuous contract I'm looking at here. As I say, it's gapped up this morning. It filled part of that gap at least so far. The CAC, well, that also actually gapped down a little bit, and is pushing up. It's shaping up. There is some support from these prior highs around here, which may just and the sort of price action we saw around here might just see it get a bit more traction. So these equity markets looking okay. Looking at US equity markets here, strong sell-off there yesterday on the S&Ps at one stage, but recovering to close the session off. And no surprises really, as Nasdaq it looked weak in the morning, and it continued to sell off. But once again, it ended up on a positive day as a positive day. But is this grinding out a bit of a bottom here? We'll have to see. But with the talk of more interest rate increases, maybe not. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let's just check there. There's okay, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you later. Have a great day, and yeah, catch you in the morning. Bye for now.